We often see videos out there about red flags for women when you're on a date. I have one myself, in fact. But what about green flags? Something that I think is very important for a relationship, something that you should be looking out for while you're on a date that I don't think is very often pointed out, is what I call the growth mindset. It's the ability to be able to look at your own problems, acknowledge them, own them, and learn from them, thus being able to grow and develop into a better person. I think it's one of the most natural ways to live your life. I mean, it's basically how all of nature works. Things grow. And to work against that is to work against your own growth. It's to try and stay stagnant, to hold on to all of your problems. Someone who shuts down and gets defensive at the slightest criticism, for example, will never grow. And that is a serious problem when it comes to really any kind of relationship, particularly a romantic relationship. Now, before we dive into the particular signs, I want to say these signs might not be something that you see on the first date. I mean, it might, but it's probably more something that you're going to want to keep your eye out over time and just be aware of this kind of quality of someone. So number one is she willing to admit to a mistake and move on? Now, admitting to a mistake might sound pretty straightforward, but it's actually not. You can admit to a mistake while also deflecting blame, which is not really owning that mistake. You're basically saying that, yeah, this was a mistake for this to happen, but it's not my fault. It's not that I did something wrong. So look for any time that she deflects blame or doesn't own up to that mistake. Like, I made a mistake, but I was really under pressure at the time. Or I made a mistake, but the other person miscommunicated, so I didn't really understand, so, it's not really my fault, kind of an attitude. Another way we can deflect ownership of a mistake is by using a passive voice, like, mistakes were made. Not, I made a mistake, but yeah, mistakes were made. What you want to be looking for is for her to be able to clearly identify what those mistakes were and to own up to them. When it comes to apologizing for that mistake, there are many ways that you can apologize without actually meaning it. I'm sorry you feel that way. Now, by saying that, it's not saying I'm sorry that what I've done has resulted in the way that you feel. What it's saying is it's a shame that you're reacting the way you're reacting. Because you shouldn't be. It's not an apology, it's much more of a critique of how you're responding. So if she's done something to upset you, and she says this, she's more saying, it's a shame that you're upset by what I've done. Because what I did, that's not wrong. What you've done is wrong. Or there's the passive-aggressive apology. Sorry I'm not perfect. That's not really genuinely acknowledging that a mistake was made and owning up to that mistake. That's trying to aggressively get you to stop talking about it and to not see it as a problem. Another way ownership can be deflected in an apology is, sorry, but you were being difficult. See, that might sound like a way of bringing up how you may have contributed to a difficult situation, which is definitely common. I mean, it's almost never a one-sided situation when someone's done something to upset someone else. There's usually sort of two players in the issue. But the thing to look out for, again, is even if you've done something to upset her and she has lashed out at you and you're sort of confronting her about this, even if you have a part to play in it, she still needs to be able to say, you're right, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have spoken to you that way, or whatever, the issue is. For saying, I'm sorry, but you, whatever, that's really minimizing ownership of the part that she played in this situation. Another way of trying to sweep it under the rug and not look at the problem, not look at the mistake, is to say something like, I'm sorry, can we just move on? Just trying to move things along. Let's not focus on this. It shows that she doesn't want to dwell on that. Not that she doesn't want you to dwell on it or she doesn't want to talk about it. She herself doesn't want to think about it. And that's a huge part of the growth mindset, is you need to be willing to look at the mistakes you've made in a healthy way, which I'll talk about more later. There's also a way one can apologize in sort of a self-loathing way. That's not an apology to you, but more saying, I hate myself and I hate the fact that I made a mistake. So if when they're apologizing to you, they sink into this really solemn, sort of shameful moment, where their head is hanging down and they're, oh, you're right, I'm sorry, and it's this like very kind of self-deprecating, flagellating moment. It's not like they're sorry to you, they're more like, oh God, I hate myself, I hate that I made a mistake. That firstly is not a healthy way to handle making mistakes. Again, I'll talk more about that later. And secondly, that can definitely be the sign of manipulation. If someone is trying to get you to then apologize to the person who should be apologizing, and you say, oh, sorry, trying to comfort them in that moment, it can be a way of deflecting from the actual problem. They'll start moping and being sad, maybe crying a little bit, and you'll say, oh, don't worry, it wasn't that big of a deal, don't worry. That's a manipulation tactic. Hopefully you don't encounter that, but if you do, they're not really apologizing. So in that apology, what you're looking for is her ability to honestly see how it is that you feel and how you see things. Sure, she might have her own feelings and her own views, but what you want her to be able to do is to see your side and to really make your feelings feel seen. If she's actually able to apologize to you, not just say the words. And number 2 is, how does she view problems or having a problem? Does she see having a problem as something to be ashamed of? Because it's this shame that makes us get defensive, shut down, and resist change. It's that shame that's at the core of the antagonism against being able to acknowledge a problem, acknowledge an issue, and be able to learn and grow from it. Shame is the antithesis to growth and progressing through life. Like getting defensive at minor criticism or things that maybe aren't even really criticism, but they take it as sort of an attack. Like, you eating dinner and saying, hey, this food's really good, but I think it needs a little bit more salt. And they say, oh, sorry, I'm not a professional chef. I guess you can make your own dinner next time, or something like that. Or if you're driving with her and you give her directions and, she misses a turn on accident and you say, oh, missed your turn. And she says, well, maybe give me better directions next time. What they're doing here is deflecting that responsibility onto someone else, even when there isn't really a problem. They see having a problem or making a mistake as shameful, as something, to avoid at all costs. If you say there's not enough salt on the meal, then they say, oh, sorry about that, let me go get the salt for you. Rather than getting defensive, they're more concerned about, the thing that you're not quite happy with, even if it's something extremely small. And really, you can think of it as priorities. Are they more concerned with defending their sort of image of perfection or being in control or being right? Or are they more concerned with creating trust and comfort between the two of you? In any relationship, you need to be able to talk about your problems and the problems you have between each other in an open and honest, healthy way. So all of these negative qualities that I went over create antagonism toward growth in herself. They create antagonism toward trusting each other, you and her, of creating an actual healthy relationship between the two of you. So certain things you want to keep your eye out over time is, does she own up to her mistakes or does she shift the blame? Do you see her behavior change over time? Because the thing is we all are going to make mistakes. We're all going to have problems. But the trick is what are we doing about them? And what we need to do about them is change over time. And you want to be looking for that. I think an easy way you can tell that is, does she put in the effort to fix things about herself generally in life? Not just with, things that you point out or things that might be a problem for the relationship, but does she do things to fix problems in her life? Something that could be an easy one to see is she incredibly messy and it's a clear problem? clothes strewn all over the floor and stuff is in a horrible mess, and she complains about it. Oh, I can't find anything. But like, if this is a problem, what are you doing about it? But if she is incredibly messy, but she's working on it, that in a way might almost be better than seeing someone who's already not messy, because you're getting that clear vision of, okay, so she can work on her problems. She sees that something is a problem in her life and she's working on it. That's good. And to sum it all up, what's really at the root of the growth mindset is honesty. Someone who is honest wants to look at the facts, no matter how much it makes you hurt. Honesty leads to growth, and growth is what life is all about. And someone who gets defensive over minor criticism or any sign that they're not perfect is resisting growth. Well, I hope you found that helpful. Like the video if you liked it. If you want to see more content like it, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.